Hey yo, what it did, y'all? You're new here. My name is No Name. Nice to meet you. And if you've already seen me before, what's good? How you doing? Let's get right into it. So, Yuga One Chain Lightning. This is the build that I decided to actually start the season on, which there's not a lot of like fanfare or reason to it. Really, it's not like it was like, oh my god, I saw some insane interaction beforehand. It's just a build that I've played before that I find really comfy. And also, I just really like the skill Chain Lightning, quite frankly. Chain Lightning is everything I've always wanted Arc to be in PoE. And you might be thinking, what Arc is great? Arc hasn't really hit like this since like Betrayal. Let's be real, right? It's been a long time since Arc has really felt this good. And so being able to play Chain Lightning feels even better. And you get to do it in the Torchlight style. So this is what I chose to play this season, which also has a couple upsides. One, I was worried about single target, with them talking about buffing the various content areas in the game, which let me tell you, they are definitely buffed. I felt like I needed a skill that I could rely on to actually get up to good single target pretty quickly. Chain Lightning definitely has one of those alternative scaling vectors that you need to play the game. You'll hear me talk about it like on stream or something and whatnot about how important it is to have methods of scaling besides traditional stats, right? So in the case of Chain Lightning, its biggest scaler ends up being jumps at a certain point. That's like its extra bonus, right? It's why like Ice Lances, especially on Karina 2, was ridiculous because you would scale with projectiles and jumps and all of the regular ailment scaling to like mix all of that together. The more wild vectors of scaling you have, the easier it is for a build to take off. This is a principle across all of the ARPGs. I don't know why I'm explaining it like it's with Torchlight, but that's an important part of this process. So, in that vein, the first thing that I thought about when I was thinking about the League Starter, why even I don't want this one in the first place, is that I just wanted a quickly automated setup. One of the bigger selling points of this game is that it's easy to make a character comfy. This is kind of relevant for two reasons. One, I like to play in bed, but two, and a lot more importantly, actually, is that I have the day this is being recorded on. I'm recording this the morning of the Saturday after the league start, and there's a Destiny raid that comes out a few hours after this is being recorded, and I need to be able to still play somewhat during that raid, which it's fucked up, I know, but I couldn't cancel on the raid because it's a thing that my friends and I have done for years together, and I felt bad like canceling on them with like quote last minute. It would have been like a month in advance, because of the Torchlight season coming out, and because like honestly, I don't know, I like spending time with my homies, so it's just like what can I do on the side while we're in downtime between encounters, or while somebody goes to the bathroom. And I was like, I could play Torchlight, or I could like, monitor it and kill bosses and stuff quickly while it like doing boss fights or and whatnot. So needed a character that can actually do that. Yuga 1 is one of the only characters in the game that does come with its own automation setup, in the form of his space-time illusion that you get at his base trait at literally level, like when you get to that point in the campaign. And one of the cool things about that is relevant is that he counts as casting your skills. Like he constantly is just casting for you. And then when you get to level 75 and you have a memory of progress, you can make it cast even more for you because it gives you a second clone in exchange for you never casting your main skill. Here's the one downside to this. His voice. No, okay, his voice lines do get really annoying. I'm just gonna warn you now. Like you're gonna hear the voice lines when you're standing around in town, and you're gonna absolutely lose it. But the real downside here is that you just lose 30% MS when you get that last talent, which sucks. But there are ways around it. There are things that we could do to accommodate, account for it, not accommodate for it, account for it, which is completely fine. And in exchange, we get another scaling mechanism, which is CDR, which is a really nice stat to also have as a scaler, right? We get extra benefit on our cast speed as well as CDR scaling for damage, which also means CDR scaling for uptime on our buffs, as well as CDR, or more importantly, uptime on our movement skill whenever we graduate off of frigid transmission. Now let's loop back around the Chain Lightning again. Like I mentioned it earlier, why I like it, but let's actually dig a little bit deeper into it because it really is just, if you play Path of Exile, it's just Arc. Or as this, even the what is it? Reading the card explains the card. Chain Lightning is pretty self-explanatory. Shoot out lightning from your hands, done, right? And I like that simplicity. It's really nice and it scales really well. You can play a couple other skills in place of it, mind you. Ring of Ice, Ice Lances, Thunderbolt Overload, Split Firebolt. Those are a couple of the skills that I looked into. I chose Chain Lightning because it's one that I was familiar with, which was good for starting purposes, but also because well, it's usually like a little bit less popular than I think it should be, and I could count on it to like be sufficient. It has two weaknesses in my eyes. One, the biggest one is its clear speed by like a mile. Early on, you are just kind of shooting out like singular lightning bolts that arc around, and you could add jumps to it through like marksman bracer or through the jump support and stuff. But it's not until you get a source of explode, or the magnificent support, Web of Lightning, that you really get that solid. Which, so you early on, Restless Glacier, it was like a 1 FE ring on like within the first 12 hours. So putting that on in one of my ring slots is really nice. The only downside is this ring actively hurts your damage by taking away your int. So you probably want to have another ring around for single target. There's a really cool ring that I can't remember the name of as I'm recording this. Have it pop up on the screen. That I use that's also 1 FE that just is literally int and more cold damage. That's what I use early on until I can afford to buy Heart of Magics, and that's ended up being what I put it in its place now. And then where I'm at now is that I do have Web of Lightning as my actual solution for clear, which means I don't run Restless Glacier anymore. I just run double damage rings. It's worth noting, by the way, merge in clear will need you to use explode again, because merge, it merges all of the extra lightning from Web of Lightning together to scale your single target. But in exchange, you don't have the cool clear as much anymore, and so you really want a source of explode to get that back to where it was. And I mentioned there were two weaknesses because I just kind of hit the second one there, which is the fact that this build does really want both of its exclusives. It's not bad, not the build is bad without them, right? I can scale my damage for quite a while without them, but your experience becomes notably better, and you get to really lean into the benefits of playing Chain Lightning once you have those exclusives. So be prepared for that. Web of Lightning is far more important than Merge. Augmentation is actually a pretty solid one. The only problem with augmentation is that it's actually just a regular support as far as I'm concerned, numerically speaking. It until you've added a good a good amount of jumps. I'm talking so marksman bracers that are corrupted, plus jump support, plus like a jump or two on your slates, then augmentation, or on your candles even. Then augmentation becomes notably better than an actual support. Until then, whatever. But once you unlock all that, you're chilling. Which, now let me talk a little bit about Web of Lightning and Merge. They come together to change how your jumps change your character. Web of Lightning makes it so that all of your jumps turn into additional chain lightnings instead. So instead of shooting one chain lightning that jumps 6 times, you shoot out 6 chain lightnings that jump once each. Makes your clear a lot better. This is something I wish I could do this in PoE, quite frankly. And then Merge allows you to then, let's say you're in a single target situation. Well, I'm shooting out 6 chain lightnings. I'm only at one target in front of me. Merge, shoot all 6 of them at the one target. I mean, that's how you scale your single target. And so this is why you do end up wanting these as you go on. Remember I said earlier, adding extra vectors of scaling. Jumps become a source of huge clear and damage scaling simultaneously. Really big. As far as leveling the character goes, it was actually quite a quick and painless experience. The only thing that was really painful about it was the fact that I was kind of rusty on it. I kind of made the decision last minute and didn't do a whole lot of practice. Ice Lance is still 27 is what I did, because lightning to cold support is what becomes available at level 27, and that's usually what makes me want to swap. Has a lot to do with, if you like to use for transmission earlier on, especially if you're not doing things that I do in leveling, it's probably better to do it that way. If you do what I do in leveling, which is I run double or even triple Shadow Dash, you could actually just play Chain Lightning from 7, as the talent trees no longer put as much of an emphasis on having cold damage early on in Goddess of Knowledge. It is now a lot more generic in terms of the ending talents that are worth taking. So you can just play Chain Lightning from the jump, and then I'd probably still use Lightning to cold at 27, just because I think that converting to cold just makes your character better. Is what it is. Also, in the treasure troves, the second treasure trove has grace boots in it. Prioritize this item; it's very strong. Born on Fire also drops here. I usually run 2 of this trove anyways, and just pray that I get both, so that I can get the damage power spike from grace boots, but the survivability spike from Born on Fire to allow me to get more degenerate with my speed investment. Then the third trove has Ice Pulse, huge for mobility. Really lets you just kind of take off running with whatever move skill you're choosing. I do mean whatever move skill you're choosing. Because Frigid Transmission has its full reset on killing freezing enemies, whereas Ice Pulse just gives you partial resets on your stuff for simply killing frostbitten enemies. So, or Sage's Foresight is your big weapon upgrade, and the fourth trove. Once you get this weapon, you will be set all the way through till the end of the campaign. Marksman Bracers at the 5th is a nice item to consider switching between. Test how you feel about it versus Ice Pulse. If you do switch to it over Ice Pulse, you will probably want to change your movement skill to Frigid Transmission, or honestly, even just Blink. Who knows? Then Photophobia at the last one lets you get Beacon, so that you can take Beacon out of your leveling set, out of your 4 talents for Goddess of Knowledge, because you have it from Photophobia. Absolutely huge. Okay, that's everything in the campaign. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about there. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on how that series goes. Otherwise, I mean, I never really thought I was lacking on damage outside of whenever I wasn't upgrading my gear. Which that's always a pacing thing. It's what it is. It happens. Now, let's talk about the actual rush to Torchlight 7. I somehow didn't mention this at all at the intro to the video, but I did use this character to take number 2 on NA for Chain Lightning, and I'm really mad about that because the guy who got number 1 killed it during my kill. We were neck and neck, apparently. I could have had it sooner, but I bricked my first Traveler to thinking that 30 million DPS would have been enough, and it was not. So I glass cannoned my character, shot my damage to 60 million, and killed it. Which you'll see that when you look at the build code, it's really squishy, low life, under 1500 ES, which is just barely enough so that I could actually take the dot and sustain through it. It was. I do not recommend playing it that way, but I was playing for the race, so that is a decision that I made. I would recommend getting your damage closer to 100 million before going in if you want a comfy Traveler 7 kill and calling it a day there. Other things about this campaign experience, the Traveler 7 rush experience, which is a lot of note because the damage felt good. I didn't feel like there were any huge massive discoveries I got besides the obvious. Remember that you get your memory of progress at around time mark 5s, so be on the lookout for that. Look, as far as big upgrade breakpoints to look for, I'm mostly going to talk about your weapon because I think the rest of your gear you usually don't invest into that much if you're rushing. And if you're not rushing, I mean, you're looking at this character at a time period where you can buy a lot of good uniques for 1 to 5 FE. So I'm not going to give too much advice there either. But in the rushing sense, if you're just kind of go time mark 1, upgrading your weapon from Sage's Foresight immediately is pretty important, as it's really easy to get a weapon that is about 30 to 40% better than Sage's Foresight. Ideally, look for a stat that dropped cast speed if possible, although that's usually a little bit more relevant for the next step, which is at around time mark 4. Again, looking to upgrade your weapon again to something that will carry you all the way to time mark 7. This is the stage in which I would look for a staff that dropped with cast speed tier 4 on it. If you could get a dropped tier 4 cast speed on a staff at this point in the game, it means you can craft on it on all the other slots and upgrade it without needing to roll cast speed, because you can't roll cast speed at that level on a staff, and it's a really premier stat for us. So it's a really good time to get a weapon that will actually take you to time mark 7. At this point, at time mark 7, upgrade your weapon again to full T2 or as close to it as you can afford, and then upgrade everything else as you need, because the weapon is obviously the biggest power spike in terms of damage that we want. I think I almost doubled my damage when I jumped from the time mark 4 weapon to the time mark 7 weapon. It was ridiculous. And then upgrade the other gear as the upgrades come. Think about some good legendaries that are worth using, which they're on the legendaries I use are on the code for my character, with the exception of 1 or 2 things that I used until I replaced it. It is what it is. And now I want to talk a little bit about where I'm at currently before we go in game, and I just show you the character and talk some stuff through about gearing and all this other stuff that I didn't manage to remember when I was preparing my notes for the pre-section, right? Let's talk first about just the state of the game. Quick thoughts: the breakpoints that they've changed between the everything feels off right now because they've changed the accessibility breakpoints for content, as well as, we've gotten a little bit weaker, right? We lost a core talent. This is something that's really important to note, right? And while we gained the ability to go into a fourth tree, which is really cool, we lost a fourth talent, or our sixth core talent, because it used to be 6 core talents across 3 trees, 2 each, to now 2 in our first and 1 in each of the other 3 that we get, which means we minus 1 core talent. 1 core talent usually translates to 20 to 25% damage, or even like a really big survivability thing that you would want instead, such as like defensiveness or something like that. So not having that is pretty big. Between that and the fact that they increased HP on a number of things, these breakpoints feel rough. Just a heads up, or more, I guess, like confirmation. If you've been playing, you're curious to see what I've been doing. This is me kind of just telling you, you're not alone in this struggle. We all been going through it. Every stream I've been in has been going through it. All my friends have been going through it. I've been going through it. Keep your head up. Just keep grinding. Keep upgrading. And it'll get better, right? And I kind of like this feel, honestly. It removed the part where I felt like getting to time mark 8 was just kind of like a preamble of the game, where you're just like, yep, forgotten conclusion, blah, 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 blah. Right? Like, I think that was a necessary change, but it definitely was rough. And they should have warned us a little bit better about the fact that this was happening. Now, in addition to this, part of the reason that you feel this so heavily is because side content really feels this change. Twilight Nightmare, Mistveil, Frozen Canvas, Eterna all had their health and whatnot increased because their content was not previously buffed by the changes to how like the end game scaled, because it happens out of BAPS, or out of the Nether realm. And now that they're being buffed appropriately, they are rough. Eterna is the biggest example of this right now, because the content was literally moved up in eye level of accessibility from 83 and 85, which, if you don't know, by the way, 83 and 85 are for the ruins before going into the city. The ruins used to be the equivalent of what would be 7-1 and 7-2, or like 7-0 and 7-2, which is extremely easy compared to requiring 8-0 and profound to do them now, right? That is a huge jump in like base difficulty, in addition to everything else that changed there. So really big changes there. That's why candles have been so expensive, outside of people who have been doing the Queen's Wick fight against the King. That's a real thing. Mistveil, you're feeling it in the form of activation mediums taking a while to come online. Frozen Canvas, if you're wondering why your supports, even like the less expensive ones, are taking a while to come onto the market or come down in price, it's because Frozen Canvas is a shit ton harder. We went from characters that were just chilling and profound being able to do rainbow canvas to genuinely struggling with the appropriate level canvas, even though you're in that map tier currently, which is where it was supposed to be. They just like messed up again. It didn't get scaled correctly when they made the transition to core and started upgrading the game system more. This also applies to Arcana, Mistveil, Twilight Nightmare. Twilight Nightmare, this change is hilarious. It made the seed so tanky compared to what I'm used to. It was ridiculous. But again, just don't fret too much about it. Just keep grinding. You'll get there. Because I'm there now, right? I'm farming time mark 8 comfortably. I can do time mark 8-1. I can do 8-1 watchers. I could probably do 8-2s even, but I want more damage before I get there. I'm only at 750,000, and I want to get to Traveler's not killable, not worth trying to kill normally, as in like last season, prior to about 4 to 5 billion. So I'm not interested in finding out about that experience until after I get over 5 billion. So I've got a while in 8s anywho. Also, before we go in game, I just want to say the new mechanic is fucking awesome. I love how many monsters there are. Mechanics like this just remind me that I do in fact love killing monsters. I love simple click thing, bunch of enemies spawn out, blow them all to smithereens, get free loot. Although they don't drop as much loot, but that's fine. I'm in 8s. I imagine this gets more and more rewarding as you go to profound. And honestly, I find that they actually drop a pretty decent amount of stuff in 7s and 8s. The bounty system could probably use a little bit of work, but I expect this to get touched up over the next couple of days anyways. All right, let's get in game so I can actually show you what we've got going on here. All right, let's go ahead and quickly get through the game so you can stop watching this video and start blasting, and I can also go fast, right? quickly proof the fact that I am in fact number 2, as I stated. Sadly, I did lose to this guy like mid-kill. Maybe really sad. Is what it is. That state of character, by the way, I do have it. It has a code. You can find that code in the description. Just a quick thing to talk about. It is glassy as hell, right? Like I mentioned, it's the super squishy setup where I went low life. It just went full damage. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You can reference it if you need to see it. I want to talk a little bit about some of the decisions that I've made that might not be the most apparent thing in the world, or things that are worth noting about my current setup. My current setup is 750 million DPS roughly. And things that are worth noting, I do not map with merge on. I take merge off for control spell when I'm mapping. And if you don't have web of lightning yet, and you're like, wait, but I want to play this, I don't have web of lightning yet, it's kind of expensive, because it is kind of expensive. Electric overload. Run like electric overload and control spell, and it's two supports that I was running before getting the exclusives. I just have the exclusives now. Other things, movement skill, usually fragile transmission, blink right now because I was bossing. Can also use speed phantom. Can also use, like, there's plenty of other options, right? Mana boil can be replaced with ice bond. Make sure if you're doing ice bond, get activation medium spell burst like I have here, and then also put multifaceted guard to make sure you're not constantly overwriting your ice bond and therefore losing its buff uptime. That's a mistake that I see a lot of people make when they run ice bond. Then I run double magus, double aura. I do not run ice imbue, and it has to do with the fact that I solved my frostbite chance without it. Not that I think ice imbue is weak, but that I think that maguses are stronger, because being able to run 2 maguses is stronger, because without superpower existing, at least the base version of superpower, I need 2 maguses to actually be able to support them with like magus effect increasers, and like this is a lot, right? 50% effect increase on, let's see how much damage does this give. It's currently in details mode. Currently gives 6% attack speed and 7% and like almost 8% damage, right? So 50% increase on that puts us at about 12% damage and 9% cast speed, which makes it pretty competitive with just with buffed up ice imbue anyways. But it also provides like a source of active utility, and I get the other maggots also buffed up, which is base crit, lots of it. It's really nice because my weapon rolled percent crit instead of base crit, so we love it. Also, Maguses can be supported with Protection Field, which gives you a defensive layer. This is a part of what made the Magus stacker so strong and needed to be nerfed. And I want to get both of them on Protection Field, but I need some investment before I need a little bit more investment for that to get the sealed mana space for it. Because you'll notice I can just change the Grudge here to it, because I have Grudge on the Fire Magus anyways. Then Spell Amp and Electric Conversion, which obviously it looks like I'm just over supporting them with things like Ink AoE, but this is here because I'm off the beaten track to make it cheaper, right? You'll notice I take it off, and I actually literally cannot have all that reserved anymore. So remember that. Off the beaten track, very, very important indeed. Other things, so let's see, I have no candles. I mentioned the candle situation earlier. I'm gonna check later today and see if it gets any better. Yoga. Let's look at my passives. Passives are pretty standard, I'd say. Remember, you really want all this sealed mana compensation. It is like really big. Also, this all stats is very beneficial to us because we do scale off of int and dex. Otherwise, I feel like a lot of this is just stock standard, and you can see it in the code. Talking about my slates real quick, to let you know this pedigree is not necessary. Please do not freak out. If I look at my comments and I see this, I will point you to this point in the video. You do not need this pedigree at all. It is just 30% more damage. It will be slightly better than if I got 2 more of any of my good slates. Like, it's fine. And on that note, because of that statement, you could consider doing a Resonance of Stars setup at the moment with like just a bunch of good purple mods on slates, which there are a lot of good ones for us, right? Cast speed, charge speed, damage while blessing are active and blessing duration, crit, lots of crit on purples, right? Especially if you're going to do the purple stacking thing, get Deception with the crit damage on things that have ailments is like 14% crit damage on those things. Really nice, right? There's a lot of good options that we could use to stack a bunch of purple modifiers. I would still make sure to get this tenacity, this blessing one anyways, but like you could go Resonance of Stars and spend your money on something that would be a lot better than trying to get gouged for pedigrees. Not worth it. Is in essence a kind of science. In terms of gear, that means idiots will never be able to learn it. Standard stuff. I'm not talking about making big weapon. I do not want level here. I wanted attributes. I hit level and I said, yep, I'm too poor to keep rolling. No idea which one is actually better. That is what it is. Flat cold and flat lightning are not that far apart from each other. So since I hit T1 on the cold, I'm just leaving it as it is. It does technically mean that I should consider changing my There's a small consideration there to be made, by the way, about the fact that I should consider changing electric conversion to frigid domain. I'll see. I don't like frigid domain for a couple of reasons. Has to do like because it's range limited, but we'll see. It might just be that I move spell amp over to life, and then that way I can put it in this setup where I get more AOE on it. But I have to do some testing. Otherwise, the standard stuff. Gonna just talk about the legendaries real quick, because I think the rare kind of speak for themselves. Except for I took +1 max spell burst on my belt, so I have 4 spell bursts at the moment. It's gonna be 5 when I get it from the slate, and I have something in mind that might take it a little bit even further beyond, because it sounds kind of ridiculous, and I kind of want to see it happen. Legendary wise, corroded marksman braces. These were like 30 FE, very worthwhile, especially now that I have exclusives. Before the exclusives, you do not need to get this corroded. With the exclusives, it becomes very valuable. This is going to be my glove until I can afford Israel's Law. Photophobia. This is going to be my... I self-corroded this just for the doing path of progression. I got lucky. But these are pretty cheap to buy and corrode if you want to try to get this yourself. Could even get like one of the implicits that make you like immune to ailment or something. Who knows? This neck is what I will be using until I craft a priceless. And Heart of Magic is what I will be using until I craft the priceless as well. Because these are just a lot of damage. But more importantly, they're about the same damage as a regular ring. The main reason to run a Heart of Magic, one Heart of Magic, is that you want the charge generation so that you don't have to take Insight, and you can instead take something else. You can take, Peculiar Vibe. And I run the second Heart of Magic so that the rate goes up to make the agility and tenacity blessing generation for my slate more reliable, because unlike in previous seasons, you can only use one of that slate modifier now. Otherwise, again, everything else is pretty like standard. Things I'm looking at for upgrades from here, it's just going to be, T1ing stuff, upgrading my memories, upgrading my slate some, getting better candles, or getting candles in the first place, actually. And then the really big one that's on its way down the line is some of the legendaries, Israel's Laws. I'm looking at either Surging or Solid River for the helmet. I'm kind of intrigued by both, and I haven't really decided which one I want to play with. I'll make that decision when I get there. Quite frankly, we aren't there yet. I'll probably test them, and I'll probably test them both and see how I feel. Then, other than that, it's just blasting. Getting memories. Which, by the way, in terms of memories to prioritize, this is gonna feel. You want to prioritize getting this one, the purple, the middle one. It has to do with the fact that this scales like it says here, additional damage for cast frequency, which its cast frequency scales off of your cast speed. So, as it's casting faster and faster and faster and faster, it actually does more damage, which is why cast speed is such a premier stat for us, and it's why the 40% cast speed sequence is competitive with the spell damage sequence, right? Because it does just give us additional damage in addition to that more cast speed, so be wary of that. Alrighty, and then you'll want the other ones, obviously, like, yeah, having the damage penalty on this turn into damage benefit is going to be nice when I get there and stuff, and getting this CDR conversion to cast frequency is going to be nice-ish, but we're mostly here for endless mana. Like, this is the big one. Alrighty, that's everything that I can really think of. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I will take a look and answer them, or you can come to my Discord or my Twitch. Both of those links in the description. Come and hang out, ask questions, chill, vibe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. I shall see you in the next one. Peace.